So are all the place settings filled now for World Superbike next year?
Aprilia. It's the only major one missing.
Yeah, the Aprilia is open. There's also a couple of perhaps satellite Aprilia seats coming up that nobody's filled yet. And there's also one good seat available at Altea Ducati, where Carlos Checa's gone to. And I guess the man that we haven't really talked about too much is also the man that was fastest in the Portimao test at the start of the year. It's Shane Byrne, Shaky Byrne.
Well, he's the question mark, and of course, obviously Ducati at Altea, that's one opportunity, and still looking for that Aprilia, having rid of them, of course, but he's behind Camia, and Nakano's making a comeback this weekend for Aprilia. They're running 3 bikes. And Sylvain Guintoli has also stepped in. He's also going to be riding as well this weekend, and that's an interesting step up too. He was going to just do the test, but now he's going to race.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
now Chris here is telling me that he thought it was Byrne and Camier on the other Aprilia team. Where did you read that?
The question remains: is there another Aprilia team yet?
I read that online that it was Byrne and Camier.
Well, you don't want to read things you see online. Goodness gracious!
He believes
it isn't the truth till it comes from your mouth.
He believes everything he hears on the internet. He thinks the
quite right. I only discuss things with the people I drink with.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility, because we do know that there is some talk of another Aprilia team coming in. There's definitely not talk among the paddock.
I also think, and Steve's probably more knowledgeable on this, I think that Altera team is going to be interesting next year. I think there's a few things in place there that make them quite a cracked outfit, so to speak. And of course, we'll see if they can get more out of the old fella Checa, but they're definitely going to approach it differently than perhaps a normal satellite Ducati team would normally.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Checa, he's got a history with Ducati, so Ducati aren't going to give him a bad bike. And you know what it's like yourself when you get kicked off of the A team and you go to the B team. It always makes you go a little bit better as well. And to be fair, I think the Ducati for Checa may be an easier bike to ride. He's seen it out on the circuit, and he's seen the customer bikes out on the circuit. Now, if you were Checa, and I mean, he's getting up there in age, if you looked at those customer bikes and thought, well, God, they're pretty bad compared to my factory Honda, there's no way that you would do another year, because it's for nothing. In my mind, he's looked at those customer bikes going around there riding his Ducati and thought, man, they look pretty good, better than the guys are saying they really are. And I mean, you just got to look at last year when Max Biaggi and Ruben Zaus at the start of the year were on those bikes. They were absolutely flying. So I believe that the Ducati and Checa will be a strong force next year.
And this down to the fact that in terms of a customer bike, Ducati really is the only way to go.
Well, it's the easiest one for anybody to get onto and ride within a second of the lap record straight away. All the other bikes need fiddling, homemade parts, a lot of money spent on them, and you're always tinkering with them. The Ducati's basically the only one that you can buy at the moment, and you know, all you need to do is put the right slicks in it. You don't even have to change the shock absorber settings or anything. It's also an easy bike to set up. You don't really have to do much to it. It works on one track, and it will also work on another track. So it's generally the easiest, because it's a very, very torquey engine, and a bike with a lot of torque is easy to ride.
Well, then that just leads me to a question of what happened to Shane Byrne?
Yeah.
His argument, well, you saw the interview, his argument is that the bike hasn't been developed since Portimao this time last year, so...
And is that down to his team just didn't have the financial resources to pour into it? I mean, even though it's a good customer bike, you can't, just let it sit there and do nothing.
I mean, I'm not being funny. There's two things have happened. The championship has gone up a step up for sure. But Shane Byrne didn't lose his ability that you saw at Portimao and that we saw in the British Championship. He's on the same bike, effectively. So you know, it seems, and he's certainly not, you know, had any fitness issues or whatever. He seems motivated. You know, he lives to ride motorcycles. I think that he's probably, there's a little bit of truth in both motivation on his part, perhaps, because it always gets you down if you're not winning, especially if you've just romped a championship. And secondly, I think, you know, the bike probably isn't more developed than it probably was.
In my mind, the bike is okay. A Ducati works like this. It doesn't get slower and slower and slower and blow up. It has the same power until it blows up. And that's the way it is. In my mind...
I feel like Steve, really.
Yeah. The problem is this, like Shaky Byrne isn't a really unbelievably talented rider. In England, he romped everything. He's come here. His problem is that there's like 25 other unbelievably talented riders without the name that he's got. And that's what I guess we're looking at. When maybe here at this circuit, he'll do something special. He's had some great rides this year at Imola. He rode absolutely unbelievable. But it could be any one of those guys. It could be Schmerz. We're talking about Shane Byrne. We saw Jakob Schmerz take a podium this year on the Ducati privateer bike.
And several front row starts. So.
With 800 Moto 2 teams over there in MotoGP, are people jumping ship to Moto 2?
I think people want to, because they see MotoGP and MotoGP2 as, you know, hopefully somewhere where there's more money. Basically, I mean, Ayrton Badavini's got his eye on the ride over there, the guy that rode in the Superstock from the Aprilia. Crutchlow wanted to go, but he's been, you know, snagged by Yamaha to stay here. So
I think it comes, Moto2's launch comes at a worse time because, or the worst time in terms of riders available, because World Superbikes is going to be so strong. It's going to be the strongest we've ever had, I think, next year. And so that's kind of stolen a bit of their thunder. But I think for young guys, and Cal I would have included in there, on the way up, it's still a great option. Whereas the more established riders like a Tom Sykes maybe, who are just in between sort of mid-20s, might prefer to stay in World Superbike.
Yes and no, because the problem is this: if Cal, we know that Cal's coming here to a Superbike which can win, because it has a possibility to win championship this weekend. If Cal goes to Moto 2, nobody knows how good the bikes are going to be. You could be on a bike that is made by a factory Honda, I don't know, by somebody, but yet a privateer might make a bike 2 seconds a lap quicker. So, you know what I mean? Like, you may be the best rider in the world. That class needs to settle down before they start getting those top guys in. For me, it's too risky for someone like Cal Crutchlow to go there, because when you're in a top factory ride, you need to take it and you need to stay there. Otherwise, it's very easy to go into oblivion. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of really good riders. You need to stay in the limelight, and to do that, you need to have the best team behind you, and that's what the Yamaha team is over here at the moment.
What's the feeling over in the States about the championship this weekend?
Oh, well, that Ben Spies is going to crush it.
Because it's what he did in the AMA. He put the pressure on him, and that's how he goes to it?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't... When you've been Matt Mladen's teammate, there is no greater pressure on the planet that can ever be applied to you.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, I actually think you're right. I think the fact that he's got Haga as a friend, and he knows what Haga can do, and he knows how hard he'll be, I think, yeah, there's a huge amount of confidence. Plus, I suppose there's a bit of history on both their sides. If you look back, I mean, it's a Texas championship when it comes to champions. You know, Doug Poland broke all the records. Then Colin Edwards broke his records. And now Ben Spies is attempting, you know, to beat all the records, so to speak. And then you add a bit of Kaczynski and Edwards in between, Kaczynski and Merkel in between. And then you've got, you know, what America's done for this championship. So there's a lot of history on his side, but the other bloke's on a Ducati, and we know enough about that.
Another little interesting tidbit for the weekend is that one of Fujio Yoshimura, his nephew, is here this weekend. Yohei Yoshimura, who runs the racing effort in Japan, and I've had a few words with Fujio over the year, and he wants to come to World Superbike with his Japanese team. So perhaps next year. They're having meetings this year to see if they can do a couple of wildcard events next year. So that's all happening this weekend as well, so that will be very interesting.
Very.